Good morning. We're continuing the Maimer, discussing the difference between Avram Avinu and all the others fulfilling the Torah, learning the Torah before it was given, and the fact that there was this monumental event where Hashem gave us the Torah. And the question was, we need to understand, how are they different? Why do you have to have formal giving over the Torah and Har Sinai and all that? We had the Torah, we had the information, we were learning it. What's the problem? So to understand that, we explained that Avram Avinu was traveling south. And that's the process of reaching south, is the right side of Mizrach, which is the idea of Ava, which is love, kindness. And in this context, we're talking about Hashem's, Avram Avinu's reaching a love for Hashem, or connecting with a level known as the supernal Ava, the supernal light, the Ava Al Yenu. It's a process. And it comes through his Beinunus, when a person contemplates the greatness of Hashem. Part of that greatness of Hashem is the fact that creation of the world is only from a Malchus level. Meaning, it's a ray, it's like speech of a person. What's our speech? It's external, it's not really us, it's not our essence, it's something that we're saying. Hashem is so great that this amazing world that he created is created from this like lower version, if you will, of Hashem. Not lower version, I shouldn't say version of Hashem, but it's the lower level emanation, words, it's external. To appreciate that, we have to get that we have a nefesh habahamis, an animal soul, which locks and holds the godly soul in confinement. Our godly soul was next to Hashem and it wants to connect with Hashem more. The issue is that it's in a setup where the animal soul is pushing it in a different direction. So I want to daven, I want to learn, I want to connect to Hashem. And the animal soul says, let's go have fun, let's do whatever it may be. So that's the Egypt. And Avram started his journey, Vayal Avram mi Mitzrayim. Avram went up from Mitzrayim, and then he constantly went south, in a good way, going to this Ava that happens. To appreciate that, we look at Malchus, we look at Dibur. Let's explore a king. When a king is, the king over a kingdom, that's a mode that he places himself in. He has other modes. He has his essence. But the king is like, I'm getting up there and I'm behaving in that manner. Like we say, Dvar Melech Shiltain. It's the word of the king which is controlling. So the words of Hashem are creating the world and sustaining it the whole time. Now by people, it's so removed that when we do something, whatever that something is, create something, build something, it's external from us. It's Maaseh Yadecha. It's the actions of your hands. So once I do it, this thing is removed. I could leave. The item that I created is still there, and it's all good, right? However, by Hashem, on the one hand, we're saying, yes, this is external, because it's not his essence, which is what we're trying to say. At the same time, Hashem's Maaseh Yadav, his actions, yes, it's external, it's not his essence, but he's still connected to it the whole time. And this is where he's getting at, that there's this level of HaSeifet. When a human being does something, external is removed. When Hashem does it, even though it's his name, even though it's a ray, it's still attached and connected to the essence. So somehow the essence is involved in there as well. And that's what we refer to when we say HaSeifet, is to get access to that light, which wasn't used for creation, because there's only a ray, a name it's called. The name of Hashem is not his essence, it's just a reference. But at the same time, we're dealing with Hashem, and when there's essence involved, you can't separate it. We can't see it, we can't necessarily access it, and that's what we're trying to get to, is that accessibility to that component. Let's look inside. Nonetheless, all it is a shine of Hashem. Despite the fact that when Hashem creates something, it's still connected to Him. Nonetheless, what we're dealing with and what we're accessing is the shine. Yes, it's still attached because it's Hashem, but Hashem is exalted from this level. The Hu Aseviv Kolam, and that level of the exaltedness that we're expressing, that's Soivev. Umaylo umato shavim lefanav, and above and below are equal in front of him. Like it says on the Eibishter, I didn't change. Implying that even when there's creation and there's external levels at play and there's the name and there's speech, all these other things, nonetheless, Am Hashem, I didn't change. So wherever I am fully. Yes, you're dealing with, and creation comes from an external part. And that's part of why I'm so amazed by Hashem, and I should love Him and want to connect with Him more because, wow, this is nothing. Nonetheless, it's still involved. And therefore, the soul pours out to the bazim, what's it called there? Bosom?
Yeah.
Of her father. Meaning like the daughter that wants to be with her father. That my soul is desiring very strongly and expiring almost. It just wants Hashem. To be with a real bittul mamish to Hashem. So when the person realizes that Hashem is so great and everything I have here is only external and there's really much deeper here, I develop a desire for that. And that's where the neshama really longs and wants the real deal. Which calls the Mili Bashamayim, who is to me in the Shamayim. And you, Bnei Yaakov, were not extinct. Pirush. Shanavi mitamal Yisro, the prophet is wondering about the Jewish people. The pasuk that he says is Hashem doesn't change, and you did not get expired. That's what he's saying. What he's saying is because Hashem doesn't change, and there's the essence, go for the essence. Why is the Yid not having that Klois HaNefesh experience, or close to it? We can't have it, obviously, we don't want it. But just close to that, because you have Hashem. That's the essence, you want to get there. So that's the Navi's wonder. The Navi is saying, how come the Yidden are not blown away? They want Hashem. He doesn't change. What's holding back and stopping our person, the nefesh abahamis, the nefesh lakis, to have this bittul, where it should leave the body? Don't forget, the bittul that we're talking about here is so intense that the neshama will be included in Hashem. It's like a candle where the flame gets included in the bigger fire, and it's gone. It ceases to have its own entity. What's holding it back? Even though this person is contemplating on the greatness of Hashem, I didn't change. And not every person reaches the level of Avram. That's a big deal, right? Avram reached a level where it became a Merkava, it became a wagon, as we spoke about. He's bottled to Hashem, like your wagon is bottled, your car is bottled to the driver. It doesn't argue back. It's not like, Hashem, I love you so much, I'm going to do what you want. I don't want to, but I'll do it for you. It's not even a if. Perhaps I consider just bittul. But that's Avram Avinu's level. Not everyone reached that level. So how come we have the same Eibishter, same experience, we could also have the access, but not everyone reaches that level of bittul? The reason for this is Chalishas Keach HaNefesh, the weakness of the Keach HaNefesh. The nefesh is weak and it can't leave, it can't go out of its shell and its imprisonment or confinement.
If it's so weak, then it should be able to. If it was strong and retained itself, so what is the weakness? It's not able to extricate itself, or that it doesn't have the capacity to leave? I don't get it.
Okay, so yes, exactly. It can do it. It takes effort. And he's going to explain that the Vedas weaken the person, and they create this barrier between him and Hashem. And that barrier is not allowing for it to, it makes it very hard. The reason is Chalishas Keach HaNefesh, the weakness of the Keach of the Nefesh. It doesn't have the Keach to get out of its shell and its confinement. That's what it says, that with Avenes, my strength has been weakened. So through the Avenes, it stumbles and gets weakened. As it says, your Avedes we're dividing or separating between you and the Eibishter. Now, Adam is going to bring here a very, very powerful thing. That it's not just Averis per se. It's not just Averis. There is something else which causes this. Le Averis mamish, not mamish Averis. Ela gashmis haguf v'chumri yosei. The materialism, the coarseness of the body caused that level of separation that happens. It's not just I did something wrong, and I did an Avera, and that's causing the morning, and that's causing the issue that happened. But it's the gashmis that a person's involved in, and the chumriyas, the coarseness, the materialism, is causing him to do that. Hushanasa masach mavdil, that creates a screen that separates between the Yid and Hashem. Shehuhu ha'meitzar guvul, he is the boundary and the limit. Shemagbil u'malbish as a nefesh, that limits and encloses the soul. Ad shemeirida limashech achara, till it pulls it down, that it should flow after her. It cannot go up and go out of there.
So, is it because the soul, the grubkite or the gashmis of the goof that you're born with, or what you accumulate, or as opposed?
It's what we accumulate. So, it's active. The person is so involved in materialism and pleasure and coarseness and indulgence that it pulls his nefesh down. So two things happen. Either Averis, the person did something wrong, and because of that, the question here is, how come, if we have the same Hisbeinus about the greatness of Hashem, we realize that Hashem is infinite, and His essence, and even creation, there's so much more, we want Hashem. How come our nefesh doesn't have this strong urge to have place on nefesh? I don't know if it was so bottle. Whatever Hashem wanted, He just did. It wasn't even a question. And we're struggling with it. So He says that Averis caused the nefesh to be weakened. And now we don't have the ability or the strength to pull out of this blockage, confinement of the body, and to be totally bottle to Hashem. It's a struggle. And He explains it's not just Averis, but it's also indulgence, materialism, coarseness, grubkite, gashmis that pull a person down. And now it takes me lower and I get surrounded by it, and it's much harder for me to connect to Hashem. It can't get up, meaning elevate and go out of there. That's why it says, I've seen the pain of you saw the pain of our ancestors, which is the midas of Ava and Yira. Avram is midas Ava and so on. It says Hashem saw what was going on and He helped us. Because a person on his own is very, very hard. So we have an issue here. We want to know how come in our parasha where it talks about Matan Torah, it says B'chidesh Hazeh. It doesn't say which day. And we have to learn it from a different place. Chidesh Hazeh Lachem. That's Rosh Chodesh. This is Chidesh Sivan. Just tell us what day we came to Har Sinai. Fine. That was one question. To understand this, we need to understand how come Torah had to be given formally. Avram Avinu kept Torah and did Torah before. We had access to it. We had the information. So what have to have this formal giving of it? What changed? To understand that, we said let's appreciate what Avram Avinu is doing. What's his Aveda? His Aveda is traveling south, which means Ava. He's going to try to develop that Ava for Hashem. Why? Because you start off in Mitzrayim, like Avram went up from Mitzrayim to travel. The starting up from Mitzrayim means there's confinement. I'm locked in. What's the lock? That the guf is holding me back, and I want to have this Ava to Hashem. And it's a process. On its own, I left to my own devices, I'm physical. Why? Because the godly soul is enclosed in an animal soul, and it's pulling it in a different direction. So the Hisbeinus, I think about the concept of creation of the world, and that is only the speech of Hashem, the Malchus of Hashem. And I realize there's something much greater here, and I want that great thing, and I appreciate it, like, wow, that's what I want, and that creates a love. That love is so strong, I want to connect with Him. Now, he explained that when there's a person who creates things, and he uses his name, or his shine, or Malchus, it's external. By Hashem, even though we're trying to say it's external from His essence, ultimately it can't be separated because it's His essence. And Hashem doesn't change. However, it's removed, it's Era Seviv. Now, we want to get to that Era Seviv. which will cause, when a person realizes that, it should cause naturally that he should have a klais nefesh. His nefesh, his soul should be so enamored by Hashem that he just wants to leave the body. Forget his whole, imprisonment. I want Hashem, and it tries to pull him away from there. It would want to connect, but something's stopping it and it can't. So much so that the Navi is asking, "Ani violation Hashem, I don't change. I didn't change," which means my essence is essence, regardless of creation, names, external speech, melech, whatever it is. It's not changing. So how come you guys didn't have klais and nefesh? You're not. So we answer that the problem is there's averes, and averes separate the person, and somehow the nefesh is so into it that there's a screen that doesn't allow it, or makes it very hard to have that level of bittul to Hashem. I can do what Hashem wants, but to have that bittul where it's like Avram Avinu's level, he's a wagon, he's just like, yes, that's very hard. And he says it's not just averes that do that, but it's gashmis and chumnius of the person. We're into food, we're into experiences with other stuff, and that's the drive. It doesn't have that pull. It creates a block and doesn't help us do it. And that's what it says. Hashem saw the pain, which means he saw our ancestors. He saw the Ava Yira that Avram Avinu had, and he saw that we're trying, but we have this issue. And he pulled us out of Mitzrayim. He helped us get beyond that. Now, how much time we have left, but for today. But this next paragraph, he says, this is why we have Torah. We are stuck down here, and Averes and Gashmias is creating this screen that stops the neshama from jumping to that bittul to Hashem, and that's why we have Torah. Torah is called oiz. Oiz means strength, vigor, and this oiz gives us the ability for the godly soul to overcome this coarseness and materialism and other pull, which is Gashmias, the animal soul, and to go out of its blockage and say, no, I want to connect to Hashem. This is why Torah was given to the Jewish people. Torah is called strength. That's that which is Torah, gives the koyach and the strength, the nefesh like this, to go away from the coarseness of the body, the nefesh of Hamas, Vigaso son. To go out of this confinement that a person has. That's what it means. Hashem gives strength to the Shama, to his nation rather, and he benches his nation with peace. Because through Torah you have oiz, which is oiz, you have shalom. Oiz, bishalom. What's bishalom? Bishalom is two levels of shalom. Tomorrow we'll continue about what this shalom is all about.
I tend to wonder why the Rashbi didn't expire. I mean, he said he was like the Torah. He was like, but he's still in the world. He was on such a high Drager. You'd think he'd get it.
Definitely close, right?
Is that what it comes down to?